So let's get started. Let me welcome everybody to the Section I Diploma ceremony. Uh, as you may know, we are not supposed to refer to this as a commencement ceremony. We can call it graduation, diploma. The tentative plan by the university is that you will have a commencement ceremony on campus, hopefully about a year from now. But you are now official alums of Harvard Business School, so congratulations. And I hope we all do get back together in a year or so to do something in person. I'm going to make a few comments right at the beginning. And for those of you who are on the stream, I'll introduce myself in just a second. And then we've got a couple of great little videos we want to show you, videos featuring some of you, in fact. So let me just start with just a few comments. I know I've had a number of sort of closing sessions with the section, at the end of LCA, conversations with leadership, section chair, and all that. But I tried to think of something that might be useful to put in front of you at the very, very end. And I came up with an interesting perspective on your 2-year experience at the school. And I know you're looking forward. You should be looking forward. That's fantastic. You've got a lot to look forward to. But I want to spend just a minute looking back with you a little bit. And one reason that I think I have a lot of confidence in what the members of this section will accomplish and what the members of this class will accomplish is because of the extraordinary 2 years you've spent here. Now, I have special confidence in the students in the section because I know a lot of you quite well. But as a class, you have really been through what I would describe as a unique Harvard MBA program. You started out with the first, 5-6 months with the classic program. Beautiful campus, lots of great people to meet, lots of wonderful social activities, travel opportunities, what's called the HBS bubble. And it's a spectacular bubble. Since once I got in the bubble in the late 1970s, I've never left the bubble. It's a splendid thing, okay? And then all of that ended really abruptly last March. And as I've been thinking about the rest of your experience, it seems to me that one way you can look at it is to say that you really started a second MBA program, an MBA program that's probably unique in the history of the school and one that could have shaped you in a number of powerful ways.
Hey, Professor, we've got a bunch of people waiting still.
Still waiting, oh.
Yep.
And how come they're still waiting? Wow, I don't think I can admit them here. Cindy, can you let folks in from the waiting room?
Yep, I'm still letting people in who just joined, and there's some names that don't match the roster, so I'm just trying to make sure that I'm only letting in Section I folks.
All right. Well, let's stop here. I may just do a brief repeat of, sorry, I thought almost everybody was in with some folks doubled up. And apparently only people who are in the section are supposed to be in this session. Everybody else is supposed to stream. All right, we are at 12 in the waiting room, 11. This session was very, very carefully planned, as we plan everything here, but I don't think we took into account the dean running over and then really restricting who can be in the section Zoom room. I can make a couple of observations about the ceremony this morning. I thought with what Ruth Simmons said was quite striking to be at a historically black college saying to Harvard University and other elite wealthy institutions, we really need your help. What can you do? Saying it with the president there and most of the people who are overseers and fellows, I thought was a strong and courageous message, and I suspect there will be some follow through on that. I thought the musical breaks were really well done. We have so many talented students here. I have to also admit that I really like the Latin oration. Every year it is like an introduction of just sort of utter absurdity into what is a traditional, perfectly orchestrated ceremony. But you've got this guy, or a woman in some cases, waving his or her arms in this very demonstrative, old-fashioned oratorical style. And, you know, between what you can read at the bottom where they've got captions for the translation and the choice of words that the Latin scholars often use, you can almost understand some of what they're saying as they were saying it. I was curious about how he translated words like pixel and computer, and there were a couple of odd words in there that I'm not sure how he did. Also, I really do hope the university can make good on its commitment to have a commencement ceremony for all of you in the yard. It's just sort of, the yard is packed with people. Those of you who graduated from the college or maybe got other Harvard degrees know this. There's flags everywhere. No matter what the weather's like, there's this extraordinarily festive spirit. And so I hope we'll actually be able to recreate that. Another problem with the, let me see. Is everybody here, you think, Cindy?
I just let everybody in from the waiting room, and I'll boot people if there's somebody who should be in the Friends and Family stream.
Okay, well, let me just, let me get back and give sort of a brief overview and welcome to those of you who got in late. Sorry things worked out that way. So basically, what I want to do is spend just a couple minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, kind of looking back with you, not looking forward, and looking at what I think is a really extraordinary, probably unique in the history of the school, MBA program that you had. And until we got to March of last year, you know, you got the classic HBS program, you know, lots of things to do, people to meet, endless social opportunities, you got to get your work done. Trying to find a way to cram all those things into a day, a week, into your life, that's not a bad problem to have. I remember one time, this is years ago, a friend of mine came to visit me. I was living in Soldiers Field Park. And we got up Saturday morning and I said, well, let's go see the business school campus. So we were standing in front of Baker Library. And I said, well, so what do you think of the campus? And he said, well, I'd really like to see the business school. And I said, well, this is the business school. And we went back and forth like this. It was kind of awkward. And then I realized that he was asking which building of the many buildings he could see was the business school. And so I had to explain to him, we had lots of buildings, beautiful buildings. It's a spectacular place. As I mentioned earlier, it's so nice I've never actually left it. You had that experience. And then there was January 2020, and everything changed. And my view, think about this for yourself, but one way of thinking about your experience since then is that you, since March of 2020, had the regular HBS curriculum, finished out the RC, you chose the courses you wanted in your elective. It was awkward being online, got some hybrid classrooms, good. But you had a second parallel curriculum, an unplanned curriculum. And I think if you think about some of the courses, if you will, in this curriculum, it was really an extraordinary experience. So there was one course called the Global Pandemic. Where did it come from? Why is it here? What is it changing? Shortly after that, in the beginning of the summer, we had US national and some international case studies on race, racial justice. Speaking as an American and as an older American, there was an intensity and focus on these issues that we haven't seen in this country since the 1960s. It was hard to miss that. The pandemic ripped away a lot of veneers about equality and inequality in this country and showed the disproportionate burden that some people were bearing. There was another case study about stunning technological progress. These mRNA, messenger RNA vaccines, we may have only seen the beginning of those. They may, in the next decade or two, affect so much of what happens in our world. We rapidly accelerated some tentative small-scale experiments in remote work. I hope you were looking closely at the brilliance of some companies, and I would single out Amazon. I know there's critiques of Amazon, can discuss it for a long time, but what they do on a scale, with a quality level, logistically in terms of IT, is just absolutely stunning. There was another case study in intense political polarization. That isn't over. There's another case study going on of what happens in a society where there is very little trust in any of the institutions that have been so important in the past. And we are now conducting in this country, to a lesser extent in other countries, these unparalleled experiments in central bank financing, zero interest rates as far as the eye can see, and maybe massive deficit spending by the federal government. These aren't little Harvard Business School case studies that you wrap up in 80 minutes. These have just started. They're complicated. They're going to continue. And they intruded into your lives in lots of different ways. We all lived them. We thought about them. We talked about them. And I'd also add one other thing about this extraordinary last 14 months. It impacted a lot of people personally. At the beginning, there was an ominous threat, maybe not so much to young people, but to, family members, older people in your families. How far would the virus spread? How contagious was it really? How lethal was it really? A lot of you had dream summer jobs that disappeared or got shrunk down. In terms of section experience, you may have had fewer large-scale section gatherings despite our rules and guidance. Some students have said maybe that led to sort of fewer, deeper relationships. I don't know. I don't think any of you really know. I think we could have a good discussion of this. But you really had two curriculums here at Harvard Business School. And I think and I hope that as time goes by, you and I and the others in the faculty may get some sense of the difference they make. Did they make you more sensitive to risk, more willing to act despite uncertainty, more sensitive to people who turn out to be vulnerable, more aware that you can be more vulnerable, more aware of what can be accomplished just by scrambling and trying things? These are immense social, economic, political case studies. They can be interpreted in a variety of ways. And I think that's been a unique part of your experience. The only comparable MBA experience I can think of here was really not an MBA experience, but during World War II for 4 years, we basically trained military officers. You have had a unique experience. And my bet is that it's going to make you more resilient, stronger, more sensitive, more aware of risk, more willing to take risks, more sensitive to the extraordinary developments going on in technology of broadly defined. I think it could have been an extraordinarily valuable experience, even though I know that at many points along the way it was hard and difficult for you. So that's why I put the tentative proposition in front of you that I have even more confidence in your class and in you in Section I, since I know the students in Section I quite well, that you will make something of this and you will accomplish a lot based on it and contribute a lot based on it. So those are my words, my sort of final words for you to think about as time goes by. And maybe we could even have a little classroom case study when we get together in a year or so, when you're back for your first year reunion and your commencement ceremony. So now the next thing we're going to do is show you a short video, Jan Rivkin talking a little bit about today, and then we'll get back together for a diploma ceremony, okay? So I will disappear for a moment here and be back to you soon.
Congratulations again to the class of 2021. You are now officially HBS graduates. You know, graduation day is my favorite day of the year. I love seeing our students so happy. I love seeing their families and friends so rightly proud of their graduates and so excited about their bright futures. And we now come to my favorite part of my favorite day of the year, the diploma ceremony, where we recognize each and every member of your section. As members of the class of 2021 are recognized, you'll hear mention of three kinds of honors. The first is distinction. This is for students who earned academic honors in both the first year and the second year of our program. The second is high distinction. These individuals not only earned honors in the first year and the second year, they also had combined academic performance that placed them in the top 5% of their class as a whole. These students were also known as George F. Baker Scholars, commemorating the individual whose generosity in the 1920s allowed us to build the campus. I invite you to look at the Baker Scholars page on the graduation website to learn more about the legacy of George Baker and this particular distinction. Third and last, but by no means least, the Dean's Award. The Dean's Award celebrates the extraordinary achievements of graduating students who, during their time at HBS, made distinctive contributions to Harvard Business School, or the broader community. These students have contributed to the well-being of others through amazing acts of leadership. Students and all members of the community nominate these individuals, and then Dean Tatar makes the final selection. So please enjoy the diploma ceremony. Celebrate each and every member of your section. I hope that your section will remain close through the years as mine has, and I hope that these 2 years at HBS will be just the beginning of an ongoing conversation among you as you enjoy long, happy years of making differences that are meaningful to you and meaningful for the world. Be well and stay close.
So the MBA program has put together what looks to me like a first-rate version, an online version of a diploma ceremony. We're going to start it in just a minute. What I would ask you to do is imagine that you are outside, in Baker Beach. You're standing in a line with your fellow section mates. You're going to walk across a platform. I'd shake your hand, the dean would shake your hand, the others would shake your hands, and then you'd walk down and you've got your diplomas. As I said, we want to do this again in person, but enjoy our online diploma ceremony. I've had a look at it and it really is terrific.
Vipul Agarwal. Marcia Ambrosi. Troy Amen. Michelle Battipaglia. Christina Brucht. Michael Butka. Tanya Kai. Anna Karonia. Ashley Chang. Molefe Chwani. Ashley Cohen. Thomas Crispy. Rodolfo Diaz Cabello, distinction. Caroline DiMatteo, distinction. Jackie Dwan. Sam Eisler. Patrick Fong, high distinction. Adrian Foucault. Jay Fu. Guy Gershon. Dawit Gassessa, distinction. Stevali Gomez. Kaylin Griffin. Yichen Guo, high distinction. Bill Herbert. Ethan Hirsch. Laura Humphrey. Philip Jones. Megan Kemp. Hanul Leslie Kim. Ali Kokot. Anada Lakra, distinction. Sasha Langer. Kyle Larkin. William Layden. Tyler Linzion. Linda Lee. Lucas Loch. Radhika Loker. Juan Carlos Lopez Alcala. Julia Laughlin. Kunal Malkani, high distinction. Michael Mancinelli, high distinction. Alexander Manolakis. Matthew Murata. Wahid Masri. Clifford Maxwell. Daniel Montes. Douglas Muhlstein. Raj Mukherjee. Casey Murphy. Lugzan Mustafa Kamal. Alex Newber. Abena Yantichi Uwusu. Rachel O'Connell. Bayram Ohabib. Lori Ossip. Emily Pipes. Kelsey Roberts. Gregory Russell. Malika Saharia. Justin Salem. Ivan Salinas Amaral. Florian Chaliol. Adine Schmidt. Matthew Shackelford, distinction. Shiki Shea. Morgan Scheel. Sid Singh. Lau Skogor. Alex Snyder. Rob Solomon. Elaine Tang, distinction. Cassidy Tanner. Parker Twan. Mike Turner. Sujay Tile. Betty Vo, distinction. Alice Wong. Christopher Wolfram. Christopher Wyatt. Vaibhav Yadav. Kaz Yoshimaru. Danny Youssef, David Zai, Ananya Zucchi,
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. As I said, I watched it a couple times, and I hope we can incorporate some version of that into our future traditional in-person commencement ceremonies. You really get to see the students in the section and get a good look at them before everybody disperses in different directions. We have one more piece of video that we'll show in a moment, and it has sort of the same goal, except the focus isn't so much on all of you who are the graduates, who have worked hard. It's on the folks in your families and groups of friends and communities who've supported you. And in some ways, it's almost as important as the video you just finished seeing of your section mates. So let's have a look at this. And each one of the pages has several different photos. Try to get a good look. There's a lot that's really important captured in these photos of families, friends, supporters. So you've been a great section. I think you just saw some of the reasons, some of the people who helped make you a great section. And I think you can continue to be a great section, even though you are now dispersing. So I will plan on seeing you whenever you are all here on campus next. I hope that's in a year or so. I hope we can do something in a classroom and see what you've all learned, how the world looks to you, and what you've learned in the subsequent year. So I'm now going to say farewell. My last recommendation is that everybody unmute and you have a long round of applause for each other, for everybody in Section I, and for all the families who supported you on your journey here. See you in a year or so. Have a great year.
Great fight.